Great. Thank you. It's giving time for people to come in. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ward 4. Let me make sure. Let me give 2 more seconds to let people in. Sorry. Need 2 more seconds to let everybody get in here. Okay, good. My team is saying that most people have been able to be let in. Good evening, Ward 4 residents. As you all know, we are living in an unprecedented time, and the federal government is trying to take control of our city. But I want to make sure people sort of understand the facts we are dealing with. I know this was last minute, but everything is literally happening every 5 seconds. I literally just left the courthouse with AG Schwab, Mayor Bowser, and Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. So I do apologize that we could not timely put this out, but I just wanted to make sure that I did not let people go into the weekend, given all of the unknowns right now, without being able to provide information to you all. So I first want to just thank the residents who have stepped up and done things in this moment to support one another and create community. We have a great community. And despite the narrative being pushed on the national level, we're going to forge ahead here. And so I understand there are lots of questions, a lot of anger, a lot of worry. And these feelings are all incredibly valid. And as one of your leaders, I want to affirm that these are the feelings that I am experiencing as well. And we are as angry, as frustrated, and sad for where we are as a city and where we are as a country right now. I want to be honest that I won't have all the answers for you tonight, but I want to give some information to the community. I realize that you all are not in all the conversations between the mayor, the council, and the attorney general. But we are diligently working behind the scenes, communicating consistently, having daily calls, daily check-ins, and things are arising sort of in a triage mode very quickly. And information is sort of all over the place from various sources. And so, with the federal government that's not really communicating all of the things with us, we are just going on the ground ourselves and gathering information as well. Just to be clear, so many council members have been at encampments riding around. Many council members last night were riding around because we were not sure the list of locations that encampment clearings were going to happen at, and we were just reporting to each other. So we are really on the ground reporting to one another because the information loop coming to the council, the mayor, and our police department at this time is very limited, if I'm honest with you. And so, but I wanted to make sure you all understood that, like many of you, I am shocked and I'm outraged that President Trump has weaponized the Home Rule Act by deploying the National Guard and taking authority over our Metropolitan Police Department. I believe strongly that this is a direct attack on our autonomy and the 700,000 residents of the District of Columbia, who we all call this place home. And in this moment, I think we have to fight with everything we have, recognizing that everything we have is limited due to our lack of statehood and our lack of autonomy. That does not mean, I've been saying this all week in our closed meetings between the mayor and the council and the AG, that we have to fight and we have to use every lever we have. And so I was very happy to last night when AG Schwab let us know that we were filing a lawsuit, and I'll get into that later. So I just want to say to community members, we are fighting back, and everyone's fighting back in their own way, honestly and truly. And I'm truly appreciative of all the ways in which community members have fought back. I'll say a little more there at the end, but I will be presenting slides that sort of go over the following. I'm going to just want to talk about home rule for a second, just for people who may not know what it means, the executive order and what it can and cannot do. Wanted to just look at where federal land is and what for, so people are understanding and clear. And then sort of let you understand sort of some of the communications from the mayor and OAG to date. And then community resources and supports and organizing opportunities. And then we have put questions into the Q&A. We have questions in the Q&A. This won't be a long meeting, but I want to share what we currently know and where we're at. And so I will try to get to questions in the Q&A, and what I can answer, I will. And if I don't have an answer, I have to be honest and say I don't know, and I will try to get an answer. There's so many outstanding questions that even us as leaders don't have as many answers as we would like to have, but we'll try. So I want to get started here. I know you all are hearing a lot about home rule. For those of you who know all this information, I'm sorry that you got to rehear it, but I just think it's important for all the community to understand what DC home rule is, because it's the heart of literally what is happening right now. So since 1973, DC residents have had the power to elect our own mayor and city council. Before that, we were governed by three commissioners that were appointed by the president at that time, meaning, we had no local democracy, no real say in how the city was run. In 1973, the Home Rule Act changed that for us, right? And it gave us the ability to make our own laws, manage our own budget, oversee our police department, schools, city services. And so, in short, it gave us the ability to govern ourselves, even if it wasn't full statehood. But it meant that Congress has and still retains oversight over us. And so that means they can still block or overturn our local laws, and they hold ultimate control. And the president, on the other hand, does not. And so when people ask, can Trump just take over the city? No, he cannot, right? The Constitution gives Congress, not the president, authority over DC. He can't simply just remove our mayor or dissolve our council. He'd have to go through Congress. And even then, it would be a process, really, not just a decree. And I want to be clear, to actually end home rule would require a full act of Congress, which means passage in the House of Representatives and 60 votes in the Senate. So that would include at least 7 Democrats voting in favor, right? Right now, legislation to repeal home rule has very little support. Only three people in the Senate co-sponsored, and only 6 in the House. So it's not anywhere close to sort of where we would need to be for Congress to overturn home rule. However, uh, that could change with midterms, right? If the House or the Senate swing a, fully Republican and an overwhelming Republican sort of majority, filibuster proof, which would be those 60 votes in the Senate, that could change. But right now, overturning home rule lies with Congress. And right now, where we are, we do believe strongly that the numbers are not there. And that's the legal and political reality that we're dealing with. However, as you all know, there are other ways that Congress can impact us, right? So remember, we couldn't spend $1.1 billion earlier in the year because Congress did not include our spending power in legislation. And so that prevented us from spending our own money. So even without overturning home rule, there's still ways to really debilitate the district government. And those are the things they're doing. And this home rule is what makes uh, us different from any other jurisdiction where, the California governor is really, doing some great things right now and fighting back against Trump. And, where Chicago's mayor has stood up, and so many other entities, they're not dealing with the Home Rule Act. And so Section 740 of the Home Rule Act is really the problem we're having right now. I want to be particularly 740 of the Home Rule Act allows the president to use such services of the Metropolitan Police Force as the president may deem necessary and appropriate. And I want to be clear, we were just in court today the judge indicated that Section 740 of the Home Rule Act, when it does authorize the president to ask the district for services, the next line of that says the mayor shall provide uh, provide support to the president. And so this is one of the issues we're having. Home Rule gives really broad discretion to the president to asks the mayor to provide services, and then in the same token says the mayor shall, which has been interpreted as the mayor, a shall is has to do it versus a may, which means she could try to, she may or may not have to. So that is where the contention lies. I do, I encourage people to read the Home Rule Act, because it's the whole thing that's really making our fight different and making us most vulnerable right now in this moment, as the District of Columbia. I want to go, before I get into the executive order, we want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the district. As you all know, it's important that we actually, we talk about what's happening on the ground when it comes to public safety. As you all know, over the last few years, our city has taken significant and meaningful steps to address crime. But I want to be clear when I talk about these numbers, right? First and foremost, this does not mean, because we are defending ourselves on the national level about strides and things we've made in public safety, it does not mean, I'm only going to speak for myself. Me as a council member feel that where we are with public safety as a city and where we are in public safety in neighborhood, is sort of everywhere, where we need to be, right? Like, there is room for improvement, and we know that, but that does not mean we have not been making those improvements and trying to make those improvements. And saying one, sort of boasting about the improvements we have made, does not mean we also don't understand, and plainly understand that we need to make improvements. And you can be at simultaneously proud of how much work we've done and simultaneously always pushing for us to be better. That's where we are as a district. So I don't think that you can say, heard like, oh, well, do you guys think that's enough? It's never enough. As long as neighbors don't feel safe, as long as neighbors are still experiencing violence, we always got to continue to do more. However, I want to be clear that over the last couple of years, and specifically, we have been making strides through, public safety legislation, trying to update things in the criminal code that we can update, since we weren't able to, redo the entire criminal code. We have made updates at least to deal with some of the issues in the criminal code. So I want to be clear to talk about our progress. Violent crime in DC has dropped 52% over the past 2 years. And we are now experiencing some of the lowest crime rates that we have seen in 30 years. That is what we know. And that's not a talking point, that's data. And now, again, that doesn't mean everything is solved. We're far from it. I want to note that Ward 4, 4th District, actually has led the city in reductions in crime within the ward. And as a result, 4th District leadership keeps getting promoted up because our numbers continue to show that we've been making strides. Again, that doesn't mean everything is solved. Far from it. Any instance of crime is obviously unacceptable, and too many of our neighbors still feeling unsafe is a problem. That's real, and I'm not here to dismiss those fears. But our communities deserve to feel and be safe, no matter what the statistics say. But it's clear that we are making progress, and that progress is happening through hard work on the local and community level. And federal interference won't make that work faster or easier. That's the real heart of it. We need to continue fighting crime at the local level without ceding control of our city to federal agencies that do not understand our communities, who are not trained in this type of in dealing with crime, not only in DC, but in urban cities across the board. The reality is that urban cities in across the country deal with two really hard issues, both, and housing, and homelessness, and also crime. And so we are doing our best as a district, and we can do more, and we will continue to do more. And that means, right, doubling down on what works. We still do have to address our social worker pipeline, more social workers doing more work in violence intervention, youth programming, trauma-informed care, those are the things. Baltimore mayor has talked about some of the ways in which they have doubled down on some of those interventions, and it's made a difference. So I think there's a lot that we can learn there. And I hope that we will continue to do that work. And I know we all are committed to doing that. Now I want to go to the executive order and what it says. The current executive order, first, want to talk about what it can do. The Home Rule Act does allow the president to temporarily assume control over the Metropolitan Police Department, but only in a specific and limited set of circumstances. The authority is tied to an emergency, and it's primarily meant for protecting federal property like monuments, buildings, or officials. It's not a blank check, right? It's limited by law to 30 days. And any extension will require congressional approval. Again, we've been talking about that a lot. In order for the executive order to go past 30 days, the president has to go to Congress and get congressional approval. So again, it's not something that can be made permanent by a stroke of a pen. Most importantly, Chief Pamela Smith and Mayor Bowser remain in charge of the Metropolitan Police operations. The city has made clear that if MPD is involved in any federally requested actions, it will be accompanying federal agents, not operating under their demand, right? And so that is what we were in court for today, and what the judge said clearly, that Chief Smith and Mayor Bowser remain in charge of the Metropolitan Police operations, despite what has been in the news and what was produced last night by AG Bondi. The court was pretty clear today on that respect, and the reading of the Home Rule statute as it relates to that. We are still waiting for the court to rule on a number of issues, again, about sort of what is actually an emergency. And also we're waiting on the court to rule on immigration efforts that have been that the Trump administration has been doing, and others. And she said that she would be conducting evidentiary hearings next week to address those things. This order does not remove your elected leaders. Mayor Bowser and the council remain in office with full authority over all areas outside of this narrow federal carve-out. It also does not give the federal government control of our budget, our laws, or our local services. That means sort of no control over DC school and education policy, our juvenile justice system or family courts, local business regulations, parks and recreation, public health and social services. So these things still remain under control of the district government under the mayor, with oversight from the council. This order, while concerning and unprecedented in tone, does not represent sort of a federal takeover of the city in that respect, which has been reported loudly. So while we're right to be vigilant and we are rightfully outraged, it's important that we deal in the facts, and we say the language that is clear, that our mayor is still in control of our city and governing our city, and the order does not take that away from the executive branch. I want to talk a little bit about DC Attorney General and what has happened today. Literally, we were just in court and just got off a call. I was in the courtroom today up until an hour ago. As you all know, last night, Attorney General Pam Bondi issued an order placing DEA Administrator Cole in charge of MPD, replacing Chief Pamela Smith, and assuming all of the chief's powers and responsibilities. The order also claimed to rescind MPD policies and direct MPD officers to enforce laws and regulations pertaining to unlawful occupancy of public spaces. This morning, as you know, our Attorney General, if you don't know, our Attorney General filed a complaint against the federal government to defend Home Rule, and the initial hearing took place this afternoon. The complaint asked a few things of the United States District Court: to declare that the federal government actions are illegal, to block the U.S. Attorney General's order, and ensure the control of MPD remains with the people of D.C. This afternoon, the Attorney General reported that they expect to receive language from the Department of Justice tonight, revising the original order from Bondi, asserting the takeover of MPD and Chief Smith will stay in charge of our police force. And so the judge was really clear um, about that. And what happened in court was Trump's team essentially said, we'll change the order because they didn't want the judge to rule against them. And the judge gave them the opportunity to change the executive order so that it did not read with the language of a takeover. And so we are still waiting. They are supposed to be revising the executive order. The judge is going to still be residing, and then there will be still some evidentiary hearings next week to the other places. So I want to just say this afternoon's news, I think it's hard to claim victories when we are under such siege, but I just, want to say I'm grateful the Attorney General went to, court to fight, which I have been saying, we needed to do from day one to really fight this. And I think, hearing the judges say, it's that the Attorney General Bondi could not do this, and that's not what the statute allowed. I would say, is is a win for us, and we need to continue to work to make sure that the new executive order falls in line with the Home Rule Act and does not go over a bridge our rights. I want to just go over some federal land in Ward 4 because I want to be clear. While these are in the boundaries of our ward, DC laws and MPD authority do not apply in the same way they do in locally governed spaces. So federal agencies like the National Park Service have full control over security, access, and enforcement, in these locations. And I think it's important to understand distinctions as we discuss the limits of local and federal authority within our community. And so I just wanted to know, these are some of our federal lands. I have been driving around throughout the days. At Fort Stevens, for example, I've seen Capitol Police parked outside or on the campus. I've driven around Fort Slocum, Sherman Circle. At very instances, I have seen federal forces in those locations. And because those are federal lands, it is well within their right to be on those federal lands. And DC has limited jurisdiction there. And so if you are on their lands and they are enforcing their laws there, we are very limited in sort of protections in those locations. So I think it's important that, these are areas, Sherman Circle, Grand Circle are places we love as community to hang, to be in community together, to hang out, to walk our dogs, to, play with our children, all of these things. These are now federal, these are federal lands though. And so it is very easy for them to, enforce on their lands. And so I just want the entire Ward 4 community to be sort of clear about where our federal lands are, so that people can be more aware at those locations that you will likely see an increase in federal presence because these are the locations where they are allowed to be, and where enforcement ends on our end, and they are allowed to do things. And I want to go to the next slide. I want to take a moment to address an important issue that's really impacted the ongoing federal actions in the district, starting with the discussion specific impacts on our immigrant neighbors and what we know right now. On Thursday, Chief Smith released an order that allows MPD to assist federal immigration enforcement agencies by sharing information about individuals who are not in MPD custody, for example, during a traffic stop. However, the order prohibits federal immigration agencies like ICE from questioning individuals in MPD custody and the use of MPD database to check a person's immigration status. So the order does prohibit those things. It's also important to remember that the DC Council passed the DC's Sanctuary Values Act passed in 2020, which limits the district's cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. And that law is still in effect. However, today, the judge did question sort of when local law, which is the DC Sanctuaries Values Act, comes into conflict with other federal laws, that the presumed situation was that the federal laws would supersede the DC laws. And so this is an area right now where I'm honest, we are seeking court guidance, and it's unclear sort of what the answer to that question is. The council individually has asked our general counsel to explore the chief's released order, and let us know sort of what legal arguments we have to declare it a violation of the DC Sanctuaries Values Act. And so there are still a lot of outstanding questions there. So because of that, I want to be clear, that we need to support our undocumented residents. We have various sources: Migrant Solidarity, Mutual Aid. There is an ICE emergency hotline that organize and do the work. And as a space, we also have more resources on my website at JaneeseWard4.com/immigration. My colleague Brienne, who also shares Ward 1 and Ward 4 jurisdiction, has also let me know that IUTA can help families who may have had a loved one taken from ICE at this moment. We are tracking ourselves as an office. It is very difficult for us to get additional information once individuals are taken. We are working with 4th District Police Department. My suggestion is, if an individual is taken, first, want to make sure we continue to report these things. We are keeping a record of it in our office, a spreadsheet of sort of when we are hearing. I want to thank community members who have already been texting us and calling us and letting us know when they have seen ICE in our community, when they have seen FBI agents in our community. We've kept track of those, and confirming with MPD about those things. But also, if a family member is taken and you're wondering where they are, IUTA is another organization who can also support, and their number will be listed on our Janeese Ward 4 Immigration Resources page. I have really spoken so adamantly about this action being a true abandonment of our values as a sanctuary city. Today in the courtroom, I was very disheartened when the judge basically was saying she felt, based on how the statute read, that when the president asked the mayor, and the language says shall, assist with federal actions like ICE immigration, that she felt that it was a broad interpretation and that could be true. Now, she has not definitively ruled on it, but it did not give me hope that there will not be some cooperation from our Metropolitan Police Department with the Trump administration as it relates to our unhoused residents. And it is now more important than ever for us to protect our undocumented neighbors. And this is not the answer people want to hear. I wish I could say you are safe and you are protected, and but that's not the case. And I have to be honest and be frank about it, because being honest about it is about trying to say that we're trying to fight this both on a legal level as the council, uh, and also trying to fight this in the courtroom as the District of Columbia. Right now, the odds are not looking in our favor based on the early interpretations from the courts. So at this point, we have to keep each other safe and protected. And that means coming up with safety plans in neighborhoods, safety plans in schools, safety plans in faith communities, like we've been doing all year in Ward 4. I know we've been a part of some safety plans, but it is crucial that we do that. And I wish I had a better answer of protection in this moment, but I think we have to be honest and frank, and being honest is also about that protection. I want to move on from our undocumented neighbors to protecting our unhoused residents right now. The last 2 days have been horrendous as it relates to the administration's actions towards unhoused neighbors. Late on Thursday night, we received information that they were going to be doing a wide sweep last night, tonight, and continuing over the weekend, that they were going to be sweeping encampments he as well. And this was not just going to be encampment sweeps of just federal land as we originally thought, but that they were saying it was going to be all over the city. And so, as a result, the Department of Human Services has expanded the availability of storage and shelter space, and continually assured my colleagues and I that beds will be made available for all who seek shelter. At the same time, the Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless has stated that DC does not have enough shelter beds for every person in the district who is currently unhoused. And so, as we continue to follow these developments, we remain committed to basically ensuring that all residents, including those without housing, are treated with dignity and respect. We also encourage anyone currently experiencing homelessness or who knows someone who is to contact one of those resources, to contact one of the resources listed here. We've included the shelter hotline, Virginia Williams Family Resource Center, as well, and Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless as well. And so, we all went out for the last 48 hours. I know DMHS went out to some of the locations where we know there are large encampments and really worked with individuals to offer them shelter space, to offer them care. I know some individuals don't prefer that. And so what we have also asked is many faith communities have opened their churches to doing this. And that's important, and helpful. And so we just want to continue to do that and encourage individuals to seek shelter in this moment. What we know about the individuals who have who have been caught in the current encampment sweeps, some have been turned over to the DC Department of Health and have been taken to shelters. But the only way we know that is by people being on the ground reporting those things to us. They were originally communicating with DMHHS and DHS and the mayor and Councilmember Fruman and Councilmember Henderson, who are over our Health and Human Services, but communication has become very limited. And so we have to, again, we are actually ourselves and our teams going on the ground to try to get information that we can report back out. The moment I found out, I called many of our community partners who have been doing housing work on the ground and let them know they are coming. That we were told that, they're going to be they want to get video footage, clearing homeless unhoused residents off the streets so that they can have the headlines that, Trump clears homelessness in the district. And so, we want to we don't want to give them any reason to be able to, put our people in that position. And so, again, we continue to work with these organizations, continue to report and be a part of the solution. And we're grateful for everybody who has been on the ground protecting our unhoused neighbors. Just what's happening to our undocumented unhoused neighbors is absolutely disgusting. And again, we're doing what we can with the limited powers we have as a city to try to do that. Again, acknowledging, could we have been doing more over the years? Yes. Have we done a lot? Yes. Acknowledging the work we have done, acknowledging where we can do better is what we can and should be doing in this moment as a district. Going to my next slide. A lot of organizations have put out a lot about navigating law enforcement interactions. ACLU particularly has put out guides, as well as the Attorney General's office did put out a guide earlier today. They also have a link for that as well that we will share on our page. If you interact with ICE agents, there are some things, you just need to know sort of if they show up at your door, things like, just protecting your rights. Ask if you're free to leave, calmly try to leave the area. You do still have the right to remain silent. You do not have to discuss your immigration status with anyone, such as about where you're born, whether you're a citizen. If you have valid immigration documents, you should show them. Never provide fake documents. If you're arrested, say that you wish to remain silent until speaking with a lawyer. Um, Make sure you are aware of your rights. Many groups already have these rights in different languages, Spanish, Amharic, and other languages, and they are happy to provide them. And so if that's something that you need or want to get more of, we can work on getting some of those information cards. But people have been giving them out all over the city. And again, know your rights. If you're stopped by the police, you have the right to remain silent, right? Ask if you're free to leave, ask if you're under arrest. And, you remember you still have constitutional rights, and those things should be asserted. The best thing we can do right now is truly like stay safe and look out for one another, travel with others when possible, especially on federal land. Again, share your location with close family and friends. My husband and I were walking our son and our dog, Sully, and we realized we often walk around the neighborhood without our ID. And my husband said, I guess we should start carrying our ID now just in case. And I said, actually, the answer to that is probably yes, unfortunately. Like a task that we're used to doing every day is a task now where we have to be vigilant of getting stopped and not having our identification with us and what that does. As the school year starts, we've asked DCPS to provide guidance, especially since people are having their first day of schools, as well as DC Public Charter School Board, as many people first day of schools will start on Monday for some of our charter schools specifically, and then start the following week for our DC public schools. I agree with you that they should be giving out more information more frequently. We have made the ask. Our hope is they'll give some guidance. That ask is already out there to DC Public Schools and DC Public Charter Schools Board, and you all can also email and make those asks as well. We've reiterated how important it is right now. What we can do as community, know where your children are, particularly before and after school. Create safe spaces and a plan, an after school plan for young people, particularly normally, when I'm, driving home or doing transit home from work, I will, can see students, hanging out after school like normal. Our students after school, after Roosevelt, they like to hang out on Georgia Avenue sometimes. These are things where we are now concerned because there is an attack on our young people, particularly. And so, knowing where your children are, having a safety plan, and we are asking schools, safe passage teams, and everyone to be a part of protecting our young people as they travel and traverse to and from school. We're asking people to be aware of drug or alcohol use, especially in public spaces. These are things that they're looking for. We've already seen reports council wide. We have seen reports in different wards where people have been approached, even on their front porches, whether they were just thinking they were just smoking weed on their front porch. They have been approached by law enforcement, which includes now other federal law enforcement people. So stops are not normal stops right now. When you get stopped, you may think, oh, I'm getting stopped by the Metropolitan Police Department. Well, they now have a whole entourage with them of federal enforcement officers who are basically shadowing them as they make arrest. So be mindful when you're using public transportation. My message is this: I want people to be joyful, but just be cautious, right? That's the real message. Be joyful, but be cautious. And don't, and try your best to not put yourself in a position of danger. And don't give these agents an excuse or a photo op to cause harm as much as possible. As you all know, there's various groups. People are like, how can I stay engaged? There are various groups organizing in DC. As you know, Free DC is a movement of district residents who are organizing for dignity and self-determination. And you can go to their freedcproject.org. They are constantly on the ground as well. They were in court today with us. Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid is a network of community organizations, volunteers who support Migrants in DC. They're anchored by Peace House DC, Beloved Community Incubator, East of the River Mutual Aid, and Sanctuary DMV. And so if you want to organize and volunteer with them, dcmigrantmutualaid.org, and Metro DC DSA as well, who has been on the ground organizing as well for justice and labor, housing and environment and immigration. I want to be clear, none of us really want to be in this moment in our history, but this is the position we are in, right? For such a time as this, we have been called. So I want to be clear. We want to stay and look out for one another. People have already been calling. Please email Team Janeese at dccouncil.gov. Continue to do that. We've been getting tons of emails. Please let us know when you see where and when you see federal agents. We are trying to keep track as a district. Legitimately, the only way we're keeping track, and I mean, council members are literally reporting to each other. ICE is in our neighborhood, FBI is here. We're not getting a lot of transparency and a lot of indirect information from the Trump administration on where they're going to be. And so we are on the ground ourselves, again, gathering that information. And so I just wanted to be clear with you all that reporting to our office, mainly by email, is the best, so that we can directly do that, is the best way to do that. We are following up with 4th District to see if they have information about these instances, to see and get clarity. If you can, when you see these things, please get video, please get pictures safely. If you get, I don't want to put you in harm, but if you can safely get a video, safely get a picture, send those things to us so that we can continue to report back to the main board that is sort of the conglomerate of the council, AG, and the mayor's office, to be abreast of sort of what's happening in our community and neighborhoods. So next, I do want to go to some of the town hall questions that we have in the Q&A box. I will look in the Q&A box and start to answer questions. Schools, one DCPS. These are questions that have come in from neighbors, and I'm going to try to get through all of them. So please continue to bring those. Once DCPS starts this month, will MPD be monitoring and assigned to schools? Are there any plans to support DC public schools should the federal government try to send federal law enforcement to school property in order to protect the well-being of our students, parents, and wider school community? This is an answer. This is a question where I said earlier, we don't currently have an answer, but we will continue to communicate with the mayor and MPD around their protections around school. The mayor has indicated that Chancellor Farabee will be communicating with school principals and leaders, but have not done so yet as far as we understand. So we will continue to stay in contact with them and hopefully get an answer. Many of these questions, as you answer them, we're going to try to get answers to them and put those answers out to the community, but also at some point put them on our webpage answers, but also try to answer them in next week's newsletter. But right now, we have not gotten a definitive plan from the mayor and the chancellor of DC Public Schools on what the current monitoring plans are for DC Public Schools at this moment. A question in the group is, as an educator, I'm worried about federal agents entering schools. Will federal officers be able to enter school buildings during the federal takeover? And if that happens, do we incriminate ourselves by protecting our students? From guidance we have been given from the Attorney General office and their sheet that they gave out, federal officers should not, we emphasize, should not be able to enter schools, and we need to continue to protect our students. Again, we are working alongside the mayor and OAG to ensure that our students, particularly our brown and black students, to ensure they are protected. But right now, as it stands, federal agents are not allowed to enter our schools. Schools have put together safety plans, and we have been told school officials will be sort of briefed on how to respond if federal agents arrive, ask them for warrants, and create a safety plan within your schools. Technical question, how can we get a copy of the Home Rule Act? A copy of Home Rule Act is on the council's website, dccouncil.gov/DC Home Rule. You can go to the council's website. Can you email the slides afterwards? Yes, we will share the slides out right after this. And it will be, we will upload it to our webpage so that you can go directly to it. We will provide the slides. Addressing crime in DC. Open air markets are still a major concern. They have been in operation for years. We know where they are and see them, but not the MPD. We see the National Guard on 14th Street and Union Station, but not in serious crime areas, nor MPD. Why? The mayor and Chief Pamela Smith have indicated that MPD should be accompanying and coordinating with the National Guard on their movements. We don't have information regarding where they will be deployed. Um, as it relates to open air drug markets that are throughout the city, but also the ones that we are aware of in Ward 4. NPD has indicated they are aware of, are where our open drug markets are, and they have been and will continue to enforce the law in those particular areas. If it is in Ward 4, again, please share with Commander Lavenhouse of 4th District and myself, area where I know many of them already, but where you would like to see us address the open air drug markets on the local level, so we can continue to do those things. First Amendment issues. Can we freely display signs on public sidewalks, including also the mall? Can we chalk the sidewalks? Can we carry signs on metro and buses? Can we freely display signs on public sidewalks, including along the mall? Can we do all of the above near DC and US Police and National Guards and vehicles? Yes, I mean, we encourage you to exercise your First Amendment rights. Just we ask that people be cautious and not obviously give any excuse for law enforcement to abuse their power. Obviously be mindful of the spaces and places you are in. There's a lot of federal land in the district where federal police have jurisdiction over. So we just ask that you be careful and mindful of your surroundings when you choose to exercise your First Amendment rights. But you have every right to exercise your First Amendment rights. And this time in our city and our country really call for First Amendment's rights to be exercised. And so we do, we encourage people to do that. And you do continue to have, again, you have all your constitutional rights, including the First Amendment, both on local and federal land. Where is Eleanor Holmes Norton in all of this? I was with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton in the courtroom today with her staff. She was present. Today, Rep. Jamie Raskin, the member of the House Judiciary Committee, and Congresswoman Norton and Rep. Garcia, both members of the House Committee on Oversight, introduced a joint resolution terminating President Donald Trump's unprecedented federalization of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C., pursuant to the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. And Senator Chris Van Hollen will introduce that same joint resolution in the Senate. And this legislation would terminate the president's sort of unlawful federalization of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton continues to fight and defend our rights as our congressional representative. Again, she was in the courtroom today. She has been in several hearings, and her staff has been on calls when she has not been able to be on calls with us as we continue to coordinate. Do you anticipate National Guard presence in Ward 4? Yes, I think at this point we should expect some presence of federal agents in various areas in all wards. Again, we haven't been receiving information about their movements. I have been alerted by community members where the FBI was hanging out in the bleachers at Roosevelt during a soccer game. We received information from Petworth earlier this morning about ICE agents, particularly confronting individuals who were doing landscaping work. We have received information as well. I have seen on hand Capitol Police on our federal lands in Ward 4, like Fort Stevens. We received reports of FBI, DEA hanging out in the parking lot at 5th and Kennedy at around 3 in the morning when no one was there. So I think we should expect the National Guard will be deployed throughout the city, but also other agencies that I've seen particularly have been FBI, Capitol Police, particularly are the ones that I have seen currently in Ward 4 and continue to get reports about. Will the DC National Federal Guard be conducting patrols with MPD and other federal law enforcement agencies in the Shepherd Park neighborhood? I don't know, but parts of it is a possibility. I can't say yes, definitely, because they will not share with us locations of deployment. But I wouldn't say no, that they would not. Again, a lot of what we're seeing is them sort of shadowing our current Metropolitan Police Department when they're making arrests, and when they're making stops. So there is a chance that a National Guard or other federal law enforcement will be with and alongside our Metropolitan Police Department when they're effectuating normal sort of arrest of criminal behavior as they do on the normal basis. We have been asking for MPD to be more neighborhood oriented on foot patrol and not just in parked vehicles. Yes, we will continue to communicate this concern with the mayor. Again, Chief Smith has stated several times in our public forums in Ward 4 and across that is her priority. And 4th District Commander has indicated that they continue to try to do that. One thing that I have asked is specifically for our corridors. Many districts have sort of check-in sheets inside of small businesses that officers who are on foot patrol can just, scan and check in and say, we've been here. So we're hopeful to make sure that 4th District will have that same type of accountability on a foot patrol so that we can say, they've actually been there. But I will continue to communicate that ask of the mayor as she continues to guide and lead MPD on what their further actions should be. Is the AG's office collecting evidence / examples of where federal forces are overstepping? Yes, they are in constant communication with the mayor and MPD around the movements of federal forces and their actions. And they're continuing to collect evidence and data so that, the lawsuit that was filed today isn't the only lawsuit that can be filed or the only injunction that can be filed. So the AG's office is adamant about continuing to build our case, and they are collecting information. You can obviously email them directly, the AG's office, or you can, obviously communicate to the mayor as well. Are the checkpoints that are set up legal? This is a question I asked earlier this week, and the answer that I received was that it is within their authority to set up these checkpoints. But we're waiting to get further understanding from our general counsel and the attorney general's office. But the initial answer that I received was that they were within their authority. What about the safe passage, folks? I'm assuming you're referring to safe passage, which is under the mayor's deputy mayor's office of public safety. Safe passage is still, we still have active safe passage teams in Ward 4. We particularly have 2 teams that cover a broad area, teams that cover the schools that surround, from E.L. Haynes to Roosevelt High School, to Dorothy Heights, to that area. Where Powell Elementary is, that's one safe passage zone. And then obviously the other safe passage zone is Coolidge High School, Whittier, Capital City, Ida B. Wells, in that particular area. So we have retained our 2 safe passage teams with the zone that are serve the zones in our ward. And those still are under the mayor's control and are still budgeted for and assigned to us in Ward 4. What are your thoughts on the likelihood of success of the attack on gay marriage? Yeah, another just terrible and horrible reality that we're facing. We have not heard that to be something imminent, and our local legal protections are still clear around this. Um, and if attacked, would be going against the law. Um, so right now, we've not heard that it was imminent. However, um, we have asked, you know, our Attorney General's office to be prepared for any rulings that could potentially come down and happen. And again, I our unhoused resident, our documented residents, and our LGBTQIA community, all of our communities are under attack and vulnerable at this moment. And we got to continue to just fight back. So all I will say is we don't feel that there's a strong likelihood of success, but we are in a moment where we cannot say definitively that that is the case, and we'll continue to follow up with um, the AG's office to do that. Ward 4 resident here, just want to know if there are organizations in our community working on issues related to unhoused residents that could use volunteers, donations, etc. that know of, work with. Thank you for all you're doing. Yeah, there are a number of organizations that are working with unhoused residents across the district and in Ward 4 particularly. Miriam's Kitchen, Pathways to Housing and Community Connections do immense amount of work doing outreach to people living outside who need community supports. Um, the Way Home campaign also has a number of opportunities, support, and advocacy. And obviously, our Ward 4 Mutual Aid as well continues to do work. And so we will make sure you have the information that will be on, continue to be on my website, so that we can direct people to how to support our unhoused residents. I know there's a number of faith communities that do work as well. And so we will also put that information, faith community in Ward 4 who do that work. And so we will also include their information as well. Is the parks, aka Old Walter Reed, considered federal property? Um, no, the district retained control of the property in 2016, right? So in 2016, we retained control of that property as the district. There are still sort of parts of the land that are under, State Department or embassy federal control, but Walter Reed, the parks as a whole, uh, as it of itself has district land that we retained in 2016. Um, any data you can share on arrests, altercations with ICE, detentions that has occurred since this intrusion to our city. That information is currently, again, not being shared with us. And because it's so sporadic and we have not found a way to track that information, so at least on our end, we haven't. That is why our office has set up our own sort of tracker, and council members are communicating with each other. This is an area that we have to improve as soon as possible, that I communicated on our call that I was on a call we had just before I got on here, that we have to find a way to gain this information. But right now, again, we're just retaining the information on our own. Aren't community gardens federal lands too? Is there indication these gardens might be targeted? Um, if the community garden is on national parkland, then yes, it is under federal jurisdiction. However, many of our community gardens are on DPR, Department of Parks and Recreation properties, which are under district control. So I admit I don't have information about which community gardens in Ward 4 particularly, but I do know that that most of ours in Ward 4 are DPR properties. But I've not heard anything about community gardens being prioritized. But again, nothing is preventing the federal government from doing so. So I would just say be vigilant. But again, I'm proud that most of our community gardens are actually Parks and Recreation, which is district-owned land. What exactly does congressional approval mean? Same as earlier with House passage and 60 votes in the Senate. Correct. So for overturning home rule, it requires House uh, passage within the House of Representatives, um, and then plus 60 Senate votes, right? So 60 Senate votes, which would need to include at least 7 Democratic votes, which would make it difficult to achieve since Republicans would need significant Democratic support in the Senate. Congressional approval, I think they're referring to the congressional approval that Trump would need to continue the emergency. And yes, in order for Trump to continue the emergency, again, he has to get authorization from Congress, which would be passage in the House plus 60 votes in the Senate in order to get congressional approval. Uh, um, Chuck Schumer issued a statement saying we has already said we will not approve. Democrats will not approve a continuation of this emergency in the district. So we are continuing to work with our our partners in the House and in the Senate to ensure that the president cannot meet this threshold of passage in the House and 60 Senate votes. From your point of view, what are the best ways for those of us in Ward 4 who have time to engage immediately over the coming days and weeks? Which local entities and civil society orgs need eyes and ears in the community or other supports? So, I would say people who have time, uh, so many things. There's a number of advocacy things we need to cover right now, right? So things people can do right now. Again, our young kids, our children are returning to schools. We need a plan in writing from DCPS, so you can be emailing, email, the chancellor, email the mayor and say, can we get a plan for students? You can address agencies. You can, email the council members, I mean, including myself, but the entire council needs to hear sort of, further things you want to see and hear from us. Call, if you have time to email and call on your elected officials and government entities to provide more clarity to community, I say do that. Um, get involved with your community. Our ANC commissioners, really grateful for them. Many of them have been on the ground as well, collecting information and giving that information back to me in my office, as well as to the mayor's office about what they're seeing. And again, I was going to say, if you're reporting information to me, also, please do report to the mayor's office through our Ward 4 Mokers as well, Leticia and Yamalef, so that way we can ensure that information is getting to all of us as we share it. You know, we could use help with neighbors, creating trackers as well, like, creating spreadsheets in the neighborhood of tracking when we see these things happening, going to our federal lands, looking around the neighborhood, seeing if you see unhoused neighbors and helping them in any way you can, getting them the resources and connecting them to get housed. If you need to, help them fill out paperwork, if they need to fill out paperwork to do something, just, be a good neighbor in that respect. Reach out to your local mutual aid group. Ward 4 has a mutual aid group. See how you can donate, volunteer, provide aid as well. Free DC has been doing great work, as you know, and so they host orientations. They have events. Each entity of Free DC has a ward, group. So Ward 4 Free DC is existing. Or get more deeply involved with your faith community right now. Many of our faith communities are providing food through their pantry services, providing shelter, providing clothing and supports. There are a lot of families who are fearful of, at this moment, going to the grocery store because of ICE, or going to church, going to get basic needs. So, volunteering with War for Mutual Aid or church communities to, run some groceries to someone who's vulnerable who's vulnerable right now due to their status. Those are the ways I think people can show up, right? So if you have time and you have the energy, please do that, right? Please be that support or service, or be that advocate or an advocacy group right now, asking and calling on, more clarity and more supports. and fighting these things. The midterms will be coming soon. I hate to be political, but the reality is, if Democrats lose the midterms, and that 60 threshold, right now, what's protecting us is that they can't get anything through the Senate because the filibuster, they need 60 votes. If the Senate were to flip to majority Republican and breach that threshold of 60 Senate votes, they got 60, then um, we would be screwed as a district. So I mean, if political advocacy is your thing, midterms are truly gonna be important, and you can lock it in that way. So I would just that's my advice in the coming weeks right now, and what's happening. Please be loud and proud on social media if you are on social media. Continuing to get other national partners to continue to side with DC in this moment, I think is critical, important. Um, what would the mayor's office do if the presidential administration proposed deploying active duty U.S. Marines? Um, I don't know. We have not gotten any indication that this is yet a possibility, but we are not aware of any plans from the mayor's office if this scenario will occur, and we will follow up on that. With regards to juvenile delinquency in the city, we need to get families together and have serious talks about our youth regarding their demeanor when they are in public, manners to obey the law, be respectful, go to school, and stop bad unsocial behavior. Juveniles carrying firearms, attempting to carjack or carjack, steal cars, any unlawful behavior must be corrected. Parents hold a major part in this behavior and should be accountable in some way. Okay. Yes, I agree that we need to support our families and youth, especially during this critical time. We cannot give federal agents any excuse or photo opportunity they're seeking to justify their presence. We need our young people to understand that now more than ever, we must demonstrate that our community-based approaches to public safety work. So parents, schools, and community organizations really all play a vital role, and we'll continue to, I think, really work together. We have to ensure our youth have the support and opportunities and guidance they need to succeed while not providing any ammunition to federal agents. I want to note, I just did a bunch of award for pop-ups recently, and who was with me was two entities that support our young people particularly, which is our collaboratives. In Ward 4, we have two collaboratives, the Brightwood Collaborative as well as the Petworth Collaborative. They are resources and supports to families. So if you are a mom or dad or a guardian and you're struggling with your young person and you just want support, please go to one of our, please seek support from our collaboratives. The collaboratives are funded through our Child Family Services Agency, but it's not limited to children who are in the neglect system. It is a place where you can get supports and could be connected to parenting support and help. So please use that. Again, we created the 211 hotline 2 years ago when I was chair over family services with Director Matthews. 211 is a place where you can call and get supports for young people and help them connect to services. I mean, now more than ever, we need our young people to understand that they are loved and supported, but also understand that they, have to obey the laws. And so it is a community effort. Parents, again, like I said earlier, you got to know where your children are right now, now more than ever, because the national talking point has already villainized our young people. And so they see young people in groups, particularly, we got to be honest, Black and brown young people in groups. This is one of those opportunities where they want to approach them and find something wrong, to say that they, have come down hard on young people. So just want to remain clear. The council has worked diligently with the Attorney General's office, who handles most of our juvenile cases. As well as the U.S. Attorney's Office can and does charge youth as adults, and That's a very limited group of of youth, but the majority of those cases are going to our Attorney General's office, as well as uh, help from Department of Health Human Services through our ACE program, our ACE diversion program, where young people, before they enter the criminal justice system or who have just entered the criminal justice system, can get helps and supports they need through our Department of Human Services ACE program. So we're going to continue to provide resources to parents and schools about how we can continue to help our youth as we address other issues like truancy and behavioral health issues and the supports we need on the school level. Those are all things, our budgets are all things and ways we can support our youth as well. Can we get a list of all federal government properties, lands versus local government in our area? Yes. So we pulled this from Open Data DC, which is Open Data DC is a district website that publishes all types of sort of data sets about the district. It has an interactive map that indicates sort of where all federal properties are in the district. So you can go to opendata.dc.gov and just search public lands on that website, and you'll be able to see sort of federal government properties versus locally owned lands. Again, while I have talked about what can happen on federal land, I want to be clear that based on some of the information we received, the administration is planning on attacking unhoused residents, undocumented residents on all lands, not just federal lands. I just want to make sure that we continue to be abreast to that information as well, and how we protect our residents. I know I've gone over about 20 minutes. I said this would be quick. I really just wanted to give some type of update. I'm happy to give more updates. My team, has been working throughout the recess to try to triage. Again, we've just been riding around in cars and hopping around, and every 5 seconds we're getting new updates from the mayor and the AG. I will try my best to keep these things keep you abreast as possible. Again, my newsletter is always going to be the best place for that information to be all in once. That's only because that's the only place I know I can send it and then put it on the listservs and get to more residents, all 87,000 residents. I'm obviously active on social media, on my council member Instagram page, on my Janeese for DC, on my Facebook. I'm posting things there as well. I am going to try to post as much as I can. For people who are signed up on our newsletter for phone, we continue to try to send them text messages. So I'm going to try to be as transparent as I possibly be about what's happening and what's going on, which is why I scheduled this meeting as well. So I just want to thank you all for attending tonight. I know we weren't able to get to every question, but I think we answered actually the majority of questions that came in through the Q&A. For many of those questions, unfortunately, we didn't have an answer yet, and we are going to work to try to get an answer. Again, that goes to everyone advocating here. I just encourage everyone to stay informed as possible by monitoring communications from the council, from the attorney general, and from the mayor and my office. People are sending out people are sending out information sort of every minute, every day. So also follow the attorney general on social media, follow the mayor's office on social media. If you're on social media, if you're not on social media, I know there's a gap there. I'm going to try to put all that I know into our newsletter and post it on the listserv. If any emergencies arise, I'll try to post to the listservs as quickly as I possibly can. So again, I know we covered a lot. I just want to say, please stay vigilant, but also compassionate. Also, still stay in joy, because joy is a part of resistance. We don't have to accept the narrative on the national level about our community. We know who we are as a ward. We know who we are as a city. And this is a time we all need to look after each other as Washingtonians, and as human beings. We have gotten an outpouring of love and support from elected officials, both on local Maryland and Virginia, from elected officials from cities across the country, saying, let your residents know we're fighting with them. We're in this with him and with them. We are talking to Congress, our partners, Democrats in the House and the Senate, trying to stay protected. We're going to fight with any legal levers we have. We're working with the attorney generals to file any injunctions that we can. As this court case that is currently pending evolves, we will keep you up to date with that information. I just think the most important message tonight really is we're in this fight together and we are continuing to fight. So stay strong, Ward 4, and have a good night. And free DC. Thank you.